diagnose a child as transgender.
They were wrong to pigeonhole him so quickly. I think they should have said, here we have a child who does have gender dysphoria and he's going through a period of transition where he needs to work out exactly how he feels.
I think we have to acknowledge there are a lot of children who are confused about their gender identity as a normal phase that they would go through. It's not uncommon to be confused. The good news is they're going to grow out of it. Don't mess them up.
Sydney paediatrician Professor John Whitehall says the numbers of children being treated with gender dysphoria in Australia are currently skyrocketing. It's a condition where a person is born one gender, but in their mind, they're another. You don't accept that the true levels of gender dysphoria are as high as appear to be being diagnosed at the moment?
No, I don't. I've never seen it, and I think it's much rarer than the current reports would suggest.
Single mum Ali Mitchell has always known her little boy was different.
Even when he was young, 3 and 4, he would dress up in girls' clothes, and at one stage he did say to me that could he be taken to the doctor to be made into a girl.
At first, Ali dismissed it as just a phase. But when Patrick turned 12, he made a startling confession that turned both their lives upside down.
He said to me that, yes, I really identify as a girl and I don't feel like the boys around me. So it was at that point that I said to him, well, we need to take some expert advice on this.
Was it a relief to be able to tell her?
Yeah, definitely.
And at that stage, did you believe that you were a girl in a boy's body?
Yes.
What does it feel like?
Well, it just feels like you wish you could just change everything about you. You just see any girl and you say, I'd kill to be like that.
It came as an even greater relief when Patrick was diagnosed with gender dysphoria by doctors in Adelaide. With Mum's support, Patrick made the full-time transition to life as a girl.
It's regular.
And I can tell you that no child would do this on a whim. It's one of the most harrowing, stressful, self-questioning experiences you can have.
It was quite a private thing for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is why it's very brave of you to speak to us, and we're very grateful for that. But what were you doing at home? You were using a girl's name, and you were wearing girls' clothes.
Yeah. I felt inside that I was a girl. I didn't feel physically that I was a girl, but I felt like I was on the right track to becoming a girl.
But growing taller and more masculine by the day, Patrick felt he was in a race against time, or he would be male forever. So when puberty hits, bodies change, boys get hairier,
Yeah.
voices deepen. Were you scared of that happening?
Yeah. In the shower, I'd just get out the shower and walk past the mirror. I wouldn't really look at myself because it would just upset me.
Were you getting depressed?
Yeah. I would just kind of wonder if I really needed to be alive.
Well, this is when finally we got our first medical appointment, and we'd waited about 3 months for that.
As a parent, Ali was confronted with a terrible dilemma. Whether to allow Patrick to take drugs that block puberty or risk losing him forever. She chose the puberty blockers.
Well, we put away the knives in our house. I slept on the floor next to his bed in the room. You become very worried about what's going to happen to a child in the night. He would have panic attacks.
What was he saying to you?
He said that if he couldn't get on the puberty blockers, that he would either run away and find a way to get them himself or kill himself. So how much vanilla?
Just 1 teaspoon.
But it's what Ali did next that's alarming. Australian law currently says kids need to wait until they're 16 and have court approval to begin hormone replacement therapy.
How many cookies is that?
But Ali allowed Patrick to take her own estrogen medication from the age of just 13. Was that a tough decision for you?
It was a very tough decision.
I mean, there's no turning back at that point, really, is there? It's quite dramatic, what you're about to do.
So our motivation for second stage treatment was really that Patrick was growing very tall and very broad. And one thing that estrogen will do is halt the bone growth to more of a girl pattern of growth. So we were wanting to fuse his bone growth so that we could reduce his height a little bit and also soften his features.
It's this decision that's most controversial because the changes to Patrick's body are permanent.
And as soon as we started taking the estrogen, after a month or
Changes to Patrick's body are permanent. It's this decision that's most controversial because the changes to Patrick's body are permanent.
And as soon as we started taking the estrogen, after a month or two, you could really see his features starting to soften a little bit, and we would have regular x-rays, which the hospital supported, and you could see that his bones were fusing.
Was he happier?
Having access to the estrogen was a huge step for Patrick. It was part of the solution to get to the goal, which at that time he had been diagnosed as transgender. He had accepted that diagnosis and he was on a pathway to create a life for himself as a female.
At 14, at 12.
Professor
at 12.
Whitehall has grave concerns about giving estrogen to a transgender teen.
There is no proof that
No, wait a minute. We're not going to let this go. Hold on. Hold on. We're talking about a 12-year-old. So let's bring this into context here. We're not talking about no 18-year-old or 22-year-old or 40-year-old. We're talking about a 12-year-old, and you get potty trained around the age of 3-ish, unless you were really awesome and did it at 2, but we'll just say 3. So 9 years before this child had this information seeded into them through the media in heavy dosing of this extra choice now that you have, this child precious child manipulate, because they have a sinful nature, right? We all have sinful natures. Manipulated his mother against her own internal, not sure about this, but we're going to go to the experts. Then some of the experts go, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go ahead and we're going to tag and bag this one. We're going to say this one is a transgender. At 12 years old, if this is a psychiatric thing, how do you know? Now this child says, 2 years later, 14 years old, I'm not transgender anymore. I don't want this. I don't want these boobies that you made my body grow against I can't say against his will because it was his subjective desires that, like the ocean, look at this. They swish and they swash, right? Some days I want one thing and the next day I don't, because that is how people with your temple and your soul work when you don't have the Holy Spirit. We've talked about this. It is the soulish man. It is the natural man. It is the appetite-based man that to some extent they are driven by a different set of values from an internal, what do you want to call it, a set point of pleasing the flesh that you can't please the flesh. It wants one thing one day and something else the next. And they encourage this, whereas this guy is saying, whoa, Nelly, this is a bad idea. We're talking about children here. This is disgusting. So now the child has kind of gone through the whole thing that God is trying to teach us about scars. So let's say you accidentally cut your I don't know, your face or something like that. You're going to have a nice little scar set in your skin, and it might soften a little over time. But see, even scars in flesh, God is trying to give you a case study of understanding that sometimes when you do something, even if it's an accident or whatever, sometimes it produces ongoing residual effects. Now, that's just a simplistic way of looking around at the world and seeing nature trying to give you an object lesson that God is giving you. So we should take that into our brains and consider that when a child says, if you don't give me my way and let me have this subjective thing that I want in this moment, I'm going to kill myself. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to run away. I'm going to do all of these things to get my will and my way. But then you find out 2 years later, the child sort of goes through that thing we all have to go through when you start to realize, oh, I was totally stupid. And I mean, I'm not saying that of this child per se. I'm just saying an example. So, I mean, there's been times where I would have fought to the death and told you, I want this, I believe this, I think this. Only then, just a few years later, as you grow, as you learn, as you build on, as you maneuver through life, yeah, I was totally wrong. I was stupid. I mean, how many times in your life can you think about a time when you were wrong or when you held an opposing view on whatever, or you were just stupid about something? I mean, just an average person being honest with you as a born again Christian, I can tell you that there have been times in my lives where all three of those things, check, 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 and check. But I'm not going to make permanent decisions for my child as an adult knowing that this is how life works. They don't know that's how life works. See, if they knew that's how life works, then they would be in a position to make these decisions that the people around them, the media, the government, the doctors, the people that are experts that really know what they're talking about are going to pave this way for a 12-year-old to, thankfully, he didn't have his penis chopped off. I mean, that is just going to present a whole nother set of problems. So I'm very thankful that this child did not go that route. But it also shows you how not committed to this he was. It was like, okay, well, I'll grow the boobs, but I'm not ready to let go of the other equipment. Some people will go there. Some people will go there. They will mutilate their flesh. They will remove their They can even make a vagina. Did you know that? But that vagina will never work and function the way that God makes a vagina. And I'm sorry to be so frank about it, but I mean, we're talking about people's lives being torn apart. For goodness sakes, let the Christians stand up with a voice and say, hold up. Can we use a little bit of reason for a second? We don't need to rush into these choices. There needs to be a hard, fast rule that you don't touch these children, friends, until they're 18 years old at least. And that's just to buy them a little bit of time for perspective, let alone whether it's efficacious, whether it's godly, whether it's going to cause problems. I mean, that's a whole nother set of issues in and of itself. I'm just saying 12 years old to 18, there might be a lot of subjective, shifting that happens within that time period. Let's say that person meets, at 17 and a half, the person of their dreams, and they decide, I don't want these fake boobies now. I want this girl over there, and well, I'm not going to say that, but you know what I'm saying. We are very subjective. We are very much a product of the influences around us. And just again, one day kids hate mustard. Don't you dare put mustard on my sandwich. That stuff is disgusting, for example. And then the next day they're like, I totally like it. I tried it now. You can do that with food. It doesn't matter. You can do it with ice cream. You can do it with your friends. You can do it with 100,000 things. Oh, I liked this TV show and now I can't stand it, or whatever. But you should not be able to propagate that on innocent children and then teach them how to manipulate their parents. And then at the end of the day, it's not the stupid Vogue magazine, and it's not the stupid celebrities with their children, and it's not the doctors that pumped these children full of syringes, which is disgusting on a whole nother note. It's not going to be their problem when this child or that child or your child or neighbor's child goes through this and they go, I was being led by the experts and the adults and they led me astray. You see what I'm saying? And I'm passionate about this because I think that this is wrong. And you just start to wonder, do people even have a pulse? The lack of wanting to engage within the public forum about right or wrong, you just wonder where the urgency is with some people. It's just insane. So because they can't defend their point because they are going against the very processes of logic, this is what they do. They go, we'll just make a law against it so that you can't say what you're saying because we can't beat you at your game. So we'll just make it illegal for you to say what you're saying. That is the most evil, satanic, slimy, disgusting, awful, horrible, ridiculous, weak thing that they could ever do.